Sure. My name is Gracie. I'm 23 years old. I live in Canada, and I'm currently a nursing student. Um, I like to dance. I like to make art. That's about it. Um, I do believe that I had sex education in school. I'm thinking that it was probably grade six that happened. I remember it being mostly just about biology and how sex works. I don't remember it really being very interesting or enlightening at all. Now I know that most people have had their parents talk to them about sex. I honestly cannot remember if my parents ever talked to me about sex. Okay. I remember becoming interested in sex when I was quite young, like I'm thinking probably 14 or 15. Now I didn't actually lose my virginity until I was 18, but I do remember having some experiences with like my first boyfriends where we would play with each other. I would give hand jobs or that kind of thing, but I definitely didn't lose my virginity until I was 18. I'm not really sure why I ended up waiting that long. I think it was just the opportunity had never really presented itself. We were either too shy to take that final step, or I never felt that it was right at that point. I do remember that with one of my first boyfriends, we were interested in having sex, but we didn't have access to condoms. And things like STDs and stuff like that were coming out as something known, and we were obviously uneducated on what an STD was, and we didn't want to possibly give each other STDs, even though we probably wouldn't have had any because neither of us had had sex yet. Yeah, I think that's probably why I ended up waiting so long. Okay. I'm actually not entirely impressed with how I lost my virginity per se. I was at a party and I was 18 and we were drunk, and it was actually what I consider to be a mistake. I didn't really know the guy. We were just drunk and it just kind of happened. It was not fun. It was not a good experience at all. So it's kind of a thing that I keep to myself. I would rather not share that with the general public. But yeah, so that's how I lost my virginity. It was not a good experience. It was actually, I felt pretty awful about it for a really long time. And I actually stayed away from, engaging in sex for quite a while after that because of that experience. Um, well, I was at one of my very first parties that I had ever been to. Up until that point, I was like a pretty reserved person. I didn't really party or drink at all. So we were drinking quite a lot that night, and I was very drunk, and this guy who I didn't really know came up to me, and we were kind of cuddling and kissing and getting intimate, and we just decided to go over to a room where we were by ourselves, and he didn't rape me like it was consensual, but it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't a good experience. Um, I felt a lot of remorse while it was happening, and I don't know, it just it wasn't a good first experience at all. Well, I do believe that I did stay away from sex for quite a long time after that, just because it wasn't a good experience. I do remember my first time after that. It was really like I was in a relationship. It was a really loving experience. So that, changed a lot of things for me. That, it showed me that sex isn't a bad thing all the time. So, hmm. Trying to think. Probably, it was quite a while after, like, I would say it was probably over a year after that first time that I did engage in sex again. Um, I had people like, people who I was fooling around with or whatever want to have sex with me during that time, but I wasn't ready. Having a first bad experience can, change the way you view sex for quite a long time after that. So, I would say it was probably about a year after. No, I don't think that it affects my sex life today. I choose my partners differently now, I choose them based on mutual attraction, and I tend not to sleep with people the first time I meet them. I tend to try and get to know them a little bit more before I engage in sexual activity. That way I can feel like I'm not doing something bad. That, you know, the sex is good and it's consensual and it's fun versus, you know, uncomfortable and bad. Well, I think I expected it to be different than that. I expected it to be between me and someone who cared about me, and not just, you know, a mistake. But, I don't really remember how I necessarily viewed it or how I wanted it to be. I think every girl wants it to be like this beautiful thing, you know, consensual between two people, and, you know, that it feels good and that it's a good experience. So I think that's how I viewed how I wanted my first time to be. Unfortunately, that's not how it was. Okay. Well, I definitely have become a very sexual person. I consider sexuality to be very, very high, very, very high on my priorities, especially in a relationship. I think sex between two people in a relationship is probably one of the most important parts of a relationship to me. So I have tried a lot of things. I consider myself to be a submissive person, so I'm definitely into bondage and being tied up, tied down, choked, slapped around. Like that to me is a turn on. But I also like to dish it back. Like I like to tie a guy up, that kind of thing. I've tried lots of different things. So I've tried threesomes. I had my very first threesome, was a male, female threesome, and it was probably one of my favorite sexual experiences up until this time. It was with two guys who, I wasn't dating either of them. So there wasn't any type of jealousy or anything like that. It was a very good experience. I would highly recommend it to anyone who is able to try it. It was really good. I'm not sure what else to say. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of anal sex. I have done it and I will do it on occasion. It all depends on who is who my partner is at that time. I need to be with someone who I can trust explicitly to stop when I tell them to stop or to slow down when I tell them to slow down. Because it does kind of hurt. And then once you are able to ease into it, it doesn't hurt as much. So I have to be with someone who I really trust in order to do anal sex. I'm not a fan of, let's see, what kind of things? I'm really, down to try anything. I haven't really tried anything that I don't like. A big thing that I don't like is, a guy who would, fall asleep after we had sex. I like to cuddle. I like to be close to them after we have sex. So if someone just, turns around and falls asleep or turns around and walks away, I'm not really interested in that. I'm also not really interested in someone who's not able to be intimate during sex. So, if someone doesn't want to kiss or if someone doesn't want to cuddle or if someone doesn't want to hold me, I'm not really interested in having sex with them. I definitely have had one night stands. I lost my virginity when I was 18 and I'm 23 now. And I've had about, 25 partners in between that time. So, I have had sex with a lot of people and some of them have been one night stands. They're not my favorite experiences. I like to develop an emotional bond with someone before I have sex with them. But it has happened. It's not something that I like to do on a regular basis. I'm currently in a relationship, so it's not something that's happening now, obviously. I definitely prefer sex when there is an emotional connection. Even if we're having rougher sex or bondage sex, I still like to have that emotional connection because I like to be able to trust the person that I'm having sex with. And that way I'm able to do more things with them like bondage or like anal because I like those experiences. But I need to be able to trust the person and to be able to trust a person you're just having sex with for the first time after you've met them. It's it's really hard to do that. I don't like it as much as having sex with a partner. I mean, it's interesting and fun to go out and meet someone and immediately have a connection and immediately want to share your body with them, but I would much rather create a connection between the two people, and then the sex at least has meaning, whereas when you're having sex with someone just after you've met them, it's just sex. And yeah, sometimes that can be fun, but I personally would prefer to create a connection between me and that person before exploring sex. Okay. Well, I'm currently in a relationship. We've been seeing each other for just about a year now, and we have sex very often. When I'm with him, we probably have sex like 2 times a day, sometimes even more if we haven't seen each other for a long period of time. Before I was in a relationship, I probably had sex like maybe once or twice a month. Obviously, I would like to have more than that. Sometimes the amount that I have now is too much. Like sometimes I just want to not have sex. I just want to be with that person and, spend time with that person. But I do like that, my partner is able to have sex with me on a frequent basis. It's nice. We have really great sex. But when I'm outside of a relationship, like I said, I'm not really interested in just going out and getting sex. So I try and, create emotional bonds between me and someone before we have sex. So sometimes sex is hard to find because I find sometimes guys are just looking for sex, like they're just looking for someone who wants to have sex with them, and they don't necessarily want to create that emotional bond. I did have, like, what I would consider a frequent sex partner while I was outside of a relationship. We would call each other maybe once or twice a month and get together and have sex. It wasn't always just that we would call each other and have sex. We would call each other and we'd go out for supper and we'd hang out and talk and then we would have sex. To me, that connection is important. It's not important to me to just have someone that I can call and have sex with. To me, that's not what I look for in a sexual partner. Booty calls are just not really my thing. I have had a few booty calls where someone has just called me and said, like, hey, come over and have sex, and sometimes that can be fun because it's adventurous, it's fun, it's spontaneous, you're not really sure what you're getting yourself into, so that can be fun as well. But I definitely do prefer having that emotional connection with someone before having sex. Well, I think probably my favorite sexual experience is, I had known this guy for quite a while. We were sort of close friends. And one night at this party, we were really into each other. We were talking, we were flirting, we were cuddling, we were making out and that kind of thing. I had always been attracted to him. I find him quite an attractive human being. And for whatever reason, he was really into me that night. And we ended up leaving the party and going back to his place. And we were just really into each other. He gave me this really awesome full body massage, and it was just really sensual. And then we had this really amazing sex. He was very dominant, but not like pushy. He just like kind of was very firm with me, and it was just probably my favorite sexual experience. I still know him to this day, and we've had sex a few times, but that first time was probably my favorite. My second favorite was probably the threesome that I had. It was actually involving the person I had sex with in my first story and another guy, and it was something that none of us had done before. So it was a new experience for all of us, and it was a really great experience. Like, I've heard horror stories of threesomes where there's jealousy involved and that kind of thing. This wasn't at all like that. It was a wonderful experience because both of the guys were also bisexual, so they weren't just having sex with me, they were also having sex with each other, and it was just a really loving, beautiful experience. I would like to do it again someday. Well, it was just kind of an idea that me and this one guy had. He was actually kind of on and off seeing this guy who was also involved in the threesome, and we were all just sitting around one night, and we were kind of tipsy, and the situation just kind of came up where, you know, would this be a possibility? Would this be something that you were interested in, Gracie? And I said, yeah, like, let's do it. What are we waiting for? It would, like, I've always wanted to have a threesome. It was always something that I'd be interested in. So it just kind of started out, and we were just, you know, regular foreplay, kind of kissing and touching each other. And we started out with one of the guys, you know, having sex with me while I gave a blowjob to one of the other guys. And then we had one of the guys giving me anal while the other guy fingered me, and I gave him a blowjob. And it was then the two guys had sex while I watched, which I found was really interesting. And then one of the guys had sex with me while the other guy watched, and we just kind of did that. The experience went on for probably about 2 hours. And by the end of it, we were all exhausted, and it was just a really interesting experience. It was, I'd never experienced gay sex, like, for me watching it, so it was pretty interesting to see. It was a very good experience. Well, with my current partner now, he is definitely more of a dominant lover. We are, when we have sex, we mostly have sex while he is dominating me. We like, he really likes to tie me up, so we have handcuffs and we have rope. He really likes to blindfold me. We have a ball gag that he really likes to use. So I do really enjoy that. He can get quite rough with me. So he enjoys choking me, which I enjoy. And we also really like to dirty talk to each other. We do kind of like the slave master talk where, you know, he asks me, oh, do you like it? Like, how do you like that? And I reply, oh, I really like that, sir. Like that kind of a talk. That's a lot of our dynamic. It's definitely only a sexual thing. I would consider myself to actually be the dominant person in the relationship. Like, when, say, we want to go out for dinner, and I usually am the person to decide that kind of thing. So I would consider myself the dominant person in the relationship, or like the person who wears the pants, quote unquote. But he definitely is dominant in bed. Like, the second the sexual tension comes on, he totally takes over. But like, that whole dynamic is definitely just when we're having sex. Oh, that's a hard question. I think, like, I consider myself to be a pretty dominant person in my everyday life. Like, I'm a very loud person. I'm very outgoing. I'm very exuberant. I consider myself to be very intelligent. I am a hard worker. So I guess when it comes to being submissive in the bedroom, I guess it just gives me a different dynamic that I'm not used to in my everyday life. And that turns me on. Like, the idea of being used in the bed is different than my ideas of everyday life. Like, I'd rather be a leader. I'd rather be in charge when, like, if I'm at work or in a group of friends, I'm, like, loud and I tend to be the center of attention. So in the bedroom, when I'm, like, able to be, like, submissive, it's just a different dynamic. And I think that turns me on. That's what turns me on about it. I've only ever once had to call our safe word, on him while we were having sex. I don't really have, he's never really reached my limit. The only time that I ever called our safe word on him is when it was just really uncomfortable. The way he had me tied up was just extremely uncomfortable. I think my hands were pinned behind my back, and I was pushed up against the wall, and my hands were just being crushed up against the wall. So that's the only time I've ever called our safe word. He has never really reached my limits yet with, like, spanking or choking. I think he always limits himself because he's scared of hurting me. Now, I tell him to choke me harder, and he does, but, like I said, he's never really reached my limits yet. I think I would have limits, if he ever wanted to pee on me. Not into that at all. Or if he wanted to leave marks on my body that were visible, like if he was biting my arms or my neck or anything like that, I might tell him to stop, just because I have to be professional for school and work. But other than that, he's never reached my limits yet. Well, it definitely makes things feel better. Like, I think the limit for me would be is if I was starting to pass out. I'm not interested in not being able to breathe at all. When I'm being choked, I do still like to be able to breathe. Or if he's covering my mouth, I like that. If he's covering my mouth with his hand, I still need to be able to breathe through my nose. So if I was not able to breathe at all, that would be extremely uncomfortable for me. So my limit for choking would probably be like just before I'm not able to breathe. But it does make everything feel better. Your body feels kind of tingly, and it makes the sex that much better, in my opinion. Well, we actually made our own handcuffs because I I find that the handcuffs you buy in the store, like the actual handcuffs, are quite uncomfortable, and I don't like wearing them at all. So what we did is we just went to our local hardware store and we just actually bought some chain and some carabiner hooks, and they work. It works as perfect handcuffs, and they're quite comfortable. So I like wearing those handcuffs, either tied up behind my back or above my head. I really like that as well. Or being tied up to a like a bed frame, that is quite attractive. We've also done some, like, we've also tried a Japanese bondage where you use rope to kind of tie like a harness. I like having my breasts in a breast harness or just having a body harness on, and that way if he's having sex with me, he can actually hold on to the harness, which is really interesting. Yeah, I like the breast harness because it actually what it does is it kind of cuts off the circulation a little bit to your breasts, and your nipples actually become quite a bit more tender. So then like nipple stimulation becomes quite a bit more, stimulating, and it feels really good. Also, then if he's on top of me and we're having sex, he can grab onto the harness, and it gives him more leverage. There's definitely certain types of pain that I really enjoy. Like, I really like having my lips bitten, or my breasts bitten, my nipples bitten, or my neck and ears. I find that quite attractive, but not hard, not too hard. Like, I don't want marks left on me. Um, I like I said, I like being choked, so obviously that has a bit of pain involved. Um, Although my partner who I'm with right now is kind of scared to like slap me around or hit me, I sometimes do like being hit gently or just kind of playfully in the face while I'm having sex. So that obviously involves a little bit of pain. As for like pain that comes from the actual sex itself, I'm not really interested in continuing having sex if it's hurting me. Like if we're having vaginal sex and there's pain involved in that, I'm obviously going to adjust the position that I'm in, so I'm not having pain. As for like anal sex, usually there's only pain when you're first trying to put it in. After that, it feels good. So, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of pain involved in that as well, and that's fine with me. I think it has a lot to do with just the submissive part of myself. I guess it's just something that would never happen in real life. Like, I would never expect to be hit in real life in my relationship. Like, if a guy hit me when we were arguing, I would leave him. Like, there's no question involved. So to have someone, hit me while having sex, it's just kind of something different. And I guess maybe, like, it adds to the scene of him dominating me, and it maybe is, like, a little bit scary at the same time. And for whatever reason, that turns me on. Well, me and my partner have recently been talking about doing like kind of a mock rape scene. That's kind of a little bit of a fantasy I've always had, and he's interested in it because, it would be like the ultimate in domination. So we've been thinking about maybe trying to set up something like that. We're still talking about it, and we haven't really decided that we're going to do it, but it definitely is something that interests both of us. So I'm not really sure how we would do it, but what we were talking about is him just coming over to my house and kind of like tying me down and gagging me and like talking to me like you know, he didn't know me and that it was going to be like kind of a rape scene like that. I am honestly not sure. I think it's just because it would be the ultimate in dominance. Like, I know I've never been raped, and I know that it can ruin someone's life, and that's not what I'm interested in. I think it's just the fact that he could do anything he wanted to me, and, that I would kind of play like I was unwilling, and that turns me on. I don't really know how else to explain it. Well, I would be interested in him kind of coming in while I was asleep and like not planning it. So like just one night, him coming in while I'm sleeping and, you know, gagging me and tying me up and, just kind of having his way with me, like, just doing whatever he wanted. Like if he wanted to have anal, he just does it. Or if he wanted to, you know, have me like fuck my mouth kind of like that, he could do that and pull my hair and spank me and like me just not really be able to do anything about it. It just really turns me on. And I think it turns him on as well. Okay, well, I think probably my worst sexual experiences, I had just recently broken up with one of my boyfriends who I was completely in love with, and I thought the relationship was going really well, and he just decided to break up with me. It was a shock to me. So I was pretty down in the dumps, and I was really upset, and I was feeling really unattractive. And then one of a guy who I had known for a while, who I considered a friend, kind of showed a little bit of interest in me. So we had sex, and it was pretty bad. Like, it was really bad sex. He was just not good in bed. And it was just a bad experience. Like, I was totally not into it. The only reason I was doing it was because I was feeling unattractive, and I guess just him showing, you know, that he wanted to have sex with me was kind of like self-affirming, which is really terrible. It's not something that I would ever do again. And we had sex, and he wanted to have a relationship with me, and I kind of told him like, no, I'm not interested in that, and he was kind of naive, and then he felt like I had used him, and it just turned into this huge debacle, and, you know, feelings were hurt, and it was really upsetting. So I consider that to be one of my worst sexual experiences. Well, I definitely think that sex can be, or sex or sexuality can be an extremely uplifting experience. Like, I've recently started posting some nude pictures of myself online, which is something I never thought I would do, but I definitely do get a thrill from it. You know, hearing what everyone has to say about me, and it's definitely quite a confidence booster. The person who I'm with right now is really wonderful. He, you know, likes to tell me that I'm beautiful a lot and that I'm sexy, and so that is also confirming. And then, like, when you're able to have sex and it's a good experience and it's beautiful and you feel good about your body, I think that's really healthy as well. I think probably with my current partner, we kind of decided to go all out, as we would put it. He put a blindfold on me, and he gagged me, and he tied my hands behind my back with our handcuffs, and he also had like a collar around my neck with a chain attached to it. So I had absolutely no control over what he did to me. And I guess just being like pushed around like that and not really being able to readjust myself at all, it was, I can't say that I necessarily enjoyed the experience, but it was definitely interesting. I would say that that's probably the most extreme sex I've ever had. I was just not, like, couldn't change anything that was happening. Just like, if I was uncomfortable, I couldn't adjust myself at all, so that was interesting. It was probably the most extreme sex I've ever had, or just having sex with two people at once. Having to not only pay attention to one person, but two people at once. Keeping in mind how two people were feeling. It was interesting. It was definitely a different headspace than what I'm used to. I have never had a sexual experience with a woman. I would actually consider myself bisexual. I've just never been put in a position where I have been able to have a sexual experience with a woman. I definitely have had intimate experiences with a woman where, we're kissing and we're feeling each other up, but it's just never really been, like, I've just never really had the chance to have sex with a woman. It's definitely something that interests me. I've actually, me and my current partner, we have kind of this deal that if I'm ever able to have sex with a woman, that he would be okay if I went and did that as long as it was just a one-time experience and not something that continues on. Well, I just I obviously find the female figure to be more attractive than the male figure. Like, that's just how we were built and that's just how we're created. So just to be able to, because I know how to make myself feel good. Like, I know what to do with myself, so I feel like I could transfer that knowledge onto another female. Now, I know that everyone is different, but I do feel like I would be able to make someone feel good, and that's something that interests me. I would like to try, to eat someone out. I would like to try and give them, orgasms, and just, have this sexual experience with a woman. I think that would be interesting. It's definitely something that I would like to try. No, I don't think so. I think that receiving something for sex it doesn't compute with me. I think I see sex as this beautiful spiritual experience that two people share with each other for, gains that aren't material, confidence boosting and happiness and a feeling of love and belonging. So it's not something that I would trade for anything, I don't think, other than those feelings from someone else. Well, do you have a few fantasies right now? I mean, the thing is, with my partner right now, I'm able to act out a lot of my sexual fantasies that involve bondage. I already explained the rape fantasy that I have. I'm also interested in having him take pictures of me, so I can view them later. I think that's quite attractive. So if we were able to, get me all dressed up in handcuffs and a blindfold and stuff, and then have him take pictures of me, because I would have had a blindfold on, so I wouldn't have really been able to see what was going on. So I find that to be quite attractive. I also think having I know this one's kind of weird, but having a guy kind of pretend like it's my first time, like I'm losing my virginity to him, even though obviously I'm not. But kind of have him, treat me like I would be losing my virginity, so he'd be really gentle with me, and for some reason that's an attractive fantasy. I've never acted that one out. I don't even really tell a lot of people about that one because I think it's kind of weird. But other than that, those are the two ones that are kind of going on in my brain right now. I don't really have any others. I'm not really sure. I guess just the way, because I lost my virginity in such a shitty way, that I guess the appeal is just, kind of recreating that experience in a way. Maybe recreating it in a way that I thought it should have happened. I guess that's the appeal. Or just having a guy treat me differently than they normally would. Because when you're a consenting adult and you kind of go into a sexual experience knowing that the person the person you're having sex with has already had sex, I think you might have sex differently than going into an experience knowing that the person you are having sex with hasn't had sex. I think you would probably have sex with them differently than you would. So I would be interested in, just exploring that fantasy and seeing where it goes. Okay, well, I've always kind of found needle play interesting. I really do enjoy getting piercings. I have quite a few piercings, and it's something that I do enjoy. However, I'm not sure that I necessarily would find it sexual at all. But I do enjoy like watching porn that involves needle play or, you know, viewing pictures of it. So that's something that I do find somewhat attractive, but I would never try. I don't think. I also find like group sex attractive. Like I guess you would call them gangbangs. Um, so I do like I said, I like watching porn that involves gangbangs, but it's probably something that I would never try because I don't think that I would feel comfortable trying that. Well, to be in kind of like a gangbang situation, I think you would have like I feel like I would have to trust all the people that were gonna have sex with me. So to find a large group of men that I trust is probably not gonna happen. Like, I probably only have 3 or 4 people in my life right now that I would trust to have sex with me in a situation like that. I mean, it's something that I would consider happening if the situation ever came up, but I'm not sure that it will ever come. Well, I do enjoy getting piercings. There's quite a bit of rush, like quite a bit of an adrenaline rush that comes with it. So I could see how that could make a sexual experience more, you know, feel better or, you know, more, it just, you know, it would make your body kind of like feel high almost. Um, but it's just like I'm also as much as I love getting piercings, I'm also quite afraid of needles. So I don't ever see myself really, you know, really ever involving myself in a situation that would involve someone else piercing me with needles in a sexual way. But I do find it interesting, like especially when they do like patterns or anything. Like I really love art. So when they're doing like patterns on people's bodies and stuff like that, I do find that quite interesting. Um, well, I think it would probably be like, needles probably that would be pierced like kind of in my nipples or like around that area or even just on any skin. Like it doesn't even have to be in a sexual zone or like an erogenous zone, like just like on your arms or on your stomach. It's just that rush of adrenaline that would cause like the pleasure to happen. I think I'm not really sure. Like I haven't really, you know, done research on it or anything like that. I've just seen it a few times and it has piqued my interest. Um, I never used to really watch a lot of porn. I never really found porn that turned me on because it's just mainstream porn doesn't really do it for me. Like, people who look like they're plastic or look like they have porn, like they have sex all the time, right? Like professional porn stars don't really turn me on. Um, the kind of porn that I like is more so like amateur porn or bondage porn. I like any kind of porn where the girl doesn't really look like she likes what's happening. I like group sex porn, gangbang porn, like anal porn is a big thing for me. Like I like watching anal porn. I usually either watch it by myself or me and my partner do watch porn together sometimes. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't really like it's not a huge part of my sexual experience, but I definitely do watch porn. It's not something that I would ever deny. I think just because anal sex is something that kind of turns me on a little bit. Um, it's usually involved in the kind of porn that I like the gangbang porn or you know porn where the girl doesn't really necessarily look like she's into it, like kind of I don't know, like I guess you would kind of consider like abuse porn or like rape porn. Now I know that's kind of like a weird thing to say that you're into, but it is one of my fantasies. And I guess when you're watching porn, you kind of want to put yourself in that person's shoes, like who you're watching. So, you know, obviously porn that involves one of my fantasies would be something that I'm interested into. I wouldn't want to tape myself having sex. Like, if like me and my partner wanted to tape ourselves having sex, it would be for personal use only. That's not something that I'd be interested in putting online. Now, I do enjoy taking pictures of myself and putting them online. I think that's a little bit different. I can kind of, you know, make myself look sexy and, you know, get that. But when you're creating a porn, you don't necessarily always look sexy. And I guess maybe that's just a little bit of my self-confidence issues coming out. But, I would be interested in having my partner take pictures of me while we're having sex and maybe put those online. I'm not really sure. I am nervous about putting pictures of myself online, even though it does turn me on, just because, someone could recognize me or I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing, but it definitely does turn me on. I like hearing what people have to say about me. It's interesting and it's a self-confidence booster. I don't really. I guess I was just kind of chatting with someone online, and they asked if they could see a picture of me, and I sent them a picture, and I got really good feedback from them, and they said, I've been a Reddit user for about a year now, and they said, hey, you should start, posting these pictures on Gone Wild, Curvy, you're beautiful. So I did, and I got really, really positive feedback, and I posted quite a few pictures on there now, and I just love chatting with people on there and, hearing what they like to do during sex, and yeah, it's interesting to me to get that perspective from everyone. I haven't really done any request pictures yet. I mostly just post pictures of my breasts. I have quite large breasts, so that's usually what people request to see. Or my lips. People seem to like my lips. I'm not really sure. I haven't done any full body pictures because I do have, a little bit of a self confidence problem, so I can never really take a picture of myself that I like. But I do enjoy posting pictures of my breasts and stuff. I guess it comes from my weight. I would consider myself to be like a curvy girl. I'm not fat, but I guess it just comes from the fact that not everyone necessarily likes curvy girls, and I've had, you know, some people in the past, give me a little bit of grief about my weight, and I guess that's just kind of stuck. I think a lot of women have weight issues and things like that. It was just a request that I had never had before, which is interesting. I do enjoy talking about myself, which may seem kind of, crazy, but I guess just, exploring something that I've never done. I've never talked to someone in depth about my sex life, so I just thought it would be interesting. Yeah, it was fine. There wasn't any questions that I wasn't interested in asking, or sorry, answering. So yeah, it was fine. It was a good experience, I think.